Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation.
I distinctly remember my first experience watching Denis Villeneuve's Prisoners. I remember the lights going down and hearing the prayer that opened the film. I remember the tension that fell upon the crowd, and I knew immediately that it was going to be an experience for everyone who was there, including me. While there is so much that can be said while watching this film, I truly think that this is one of the best films of the last decade. So much of the intensity and atmosphere of this film is captured from the perspective of two central characters who are consistently driving the story forward, giving the audience a story that shows what a human is capable of when driven to the point of desperation.
Where's my daughter?
I rewatched this film pretty recently, and upon my viewing I couldn't help but notice just how perfectly this film is written. From the dialogue to the set design, this film is incredibly well crafted and serves the story with every line of dialogue that's delivered. Even the camera work and framing throughout the film is pretty impressive. At a whopping 2 hours and 33-minute runtime, this film is a slow burn that doesn't waste time and gives the audience every answer they need before the film is over. It's not very often I watch a film and think that every scene in it is essential, but with the film Prisoners, I completely do. Every scene in this work serves the story incredibly well, and it doesn't stray from its central plot. While the film does carry a lot of information, it's not overwhelming to the point of incomprehension. Every major reveal is meticulously paced in a way that is constantly keeping the viewer on edge. There are moments where there are big clues that are given to the audience, but when you're watching this film for the first time, you don't really notice that they are big clues. Rewatching this film, knowing what you do about the ending and some of the major characters makes this film a very satisfying rewatch. Perhaps a piece of dialogue that may have seemed irrelevant at the time now carries more weight than we had initially thought.
He said he'd killed 16 children. He bragged about it.
Visually, this is also just a very smart film. For example, a number of characters who can be considered key players in this film are introduced with the camera being placed behind them. The only major character who is shown directly to the camera upon their introduction is Mrs. Jones. It's almost as if the camera is telling you directly to look no further because we've found our culprit. I found that understanding the camera and the framing is the biggest key to understanding this film as a whole. The way it moves, why it moves, or even how long it may be focused on one particular thing. The camera work and the framing of this film actually gives you all the information you would need to figure out this movie within the first hour alone if you're really paying attention. But because we're along for the ride and we're invested, we don't really know to put two and two together. Not only that, but the film is extremely meticulous when it comes to the information that is given and how it's presented to the audience. It's almost always out of context and it doesn't draw attention to itself. For example, we learn that Keller's father is dead as a result of suicide in a moment that only lasts 15 seconds on screen. Or this passing line of dialogue that is only mentioned once, nearly 2 hours into the film.
Taylor was abducted when he was a kid. He ran away after 3 weeks, and the captor drugged him on some sort of LSD ketamine cocktail and never remembered and never caught the guy.
Whenever you're watching any film that is in this mystery/drama genre, it's easy to figure them out even if you are just casually watching. Auditory cues are the biggest reason why an audience of faces light up all at the same time when they finally realize what has been going on the entire time. A character may deliver a line, may notice someone walk in a room. It doesn't really matter what they're doing. As long as there is some dramatic musical cue and the editing is in tune with what we're seeing, we as an audience understand the intention of what is being portrayed, to reveal something. But there is none of that in Prisoners. In fact, most of the scenes where major pieces of information are revealed are incredibly quiet, and they only carry dialogue in them. This film also has a number of themes that are relevant throughout the entire runtime and manages to be the driving force of what these characters do. Pretty early on in the film, Keller's character is established as a man who is prepared for just about anything, almost to the point of paranoia. He even has what looks to be a doomsday supply of sorts in his basement. We learn that he is a religious man and he intends to take care of his family no matter what. There's a quote that he says pretty early on in the film that stands out to me quite a bit.
Pray for the best, prepare for the worst.
At least we agree there, yeah?
That seems to be the central theme here, but we will come back to that. It's not long after his daughter has gone missing that he has this interaction with Detective Loki, where he yells at him for a number of things.
Shut the fuck up for a fucking second!
This is what I'm gonna need you to do for me. I need you to calm down.
Because his character sees himself as someone who is constantly prepared for the worst, he has no idea what to do now that his daughter has gone missing. It's almost like he's blaming himself for not being prepared for something like this. He's incredibly unhinged and it seems like he hasn't slept for days. This is truly his worst nightmare come true. After what seems to be a few days that the incident has occurred, there's a moment between Keller and his wife where she delivers this line.
You told us that you could protect us from everything.
It's in the scene directly following this where he makes the decision to go kidnap Alex Jones, where he will keep him for the rest of the film. It's almost even more telling of his character that when he gets in the vehicle to go carry out this heinous act, he's listening to a recording of the Bible.
The former is a reason why we should be very patient. The latter, why we should be very penitent when we are afflicted.
I kind of see this act of violence and everything that follows it as a great example of what this film is trying to say. Pray for the best and prepare for the worst. The scene I mentioned earlier where Keller is listening to the Bible just moments before he kidnapped Alex perfectly describes this. He's literally praying as he goes to take this man. In other words, he's praying for the best possible outcome here, to find his daughter. But he's prepared to push his limits here if he has to, even if that means nearly beating Alex to death.
Now tell me!
As the film goes on, Keller's behavior consistently gets worse as he falls into bad habits. Battling with his own demons and regressing into this desperation is the easiest way to look at this film. Keller's character is struggling both mentally and physically. He battles with his own faith, questioning everything because his daughter has gone missing. Even Holly Jones states that the reason her and her late husband would do these things was to see the desperation of parents, to make them lose their faith.
Making children disappear is the war we wage with God. Makes people lose their faith.
By the end of the film, everything Keller has done has driven him to a literal pit of darkness, left there as a consequence of his own actions. At this point, there's not much else left to do with Keller's character, but there is one more thing: the whistle. Early in the film, we learn that the girl's primary reason to going back to the Dover's house is to find the red whistle. Because the girls go missing in this time, we never really think about it again. In fact, for a while, its purpose can almost be kind of seen as a MacGuffin, but it isn't. It's in the moments that Keller is in this dark hole that we start to see they actually did find the whistle. So look at this the same way that we've looked at everything else in this film. For the entirety of the film, we are praying that these girls are okay, that they are reunited with their families, and by the end of it, they are. But Keller is now in their place. So as an audience, we were praying for this entire 2-hour runtime for this outcome of finding the girls. But we have prepared for the worst, losing our main protagonist. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to click the like button down below and subscribe for future content. I'll see you in the next one.